Hello everyone, I'm Kimberly, and I'd like to share a tale that revolves around my overly involved mother-in-law, Patricia. My story begins with Kevin and me. We're those college sweethearts deeply in love, a connection that blossomed over 4 blissful years before we decided to tie the knot and start our lives together. However, amidst our happiness, there were a couple of thorns on our side, primarily Patricia and Kevin's ex-girlfriend, Amy. Kevin and Amy's history stretched back 2 years, a relationship that crumbled when Amy was unfaithful with one of Kevin's friends. Kevin, heartbroken, ended things instantly. Despite her actions, Amy's feelings for Kevin persisted, leading to continuous attempts to disrupt our peace. Patricia's role in this drama was particularly challenging for me. She not only had a soft spot for Amy, but actively supported her attempts to rekindle things with Kevin, undermining our relationship in the process. Although my interactions with Patricia were polite, a genuine bond was elusive. This gap widened following an accident that left me partially disabled, forcing me to leave my job. Kevin, ever supportive, suggested I focus on our home life, a decision that only fueled Patricia's criticisms. She viewed me as a burden to Kevin, questioning my ability to care for him due to my disability, and accusing me of taking advantage of his kindness. Kevin, undeterred by his mother's harsh words, stood by our love, emphasizing that our mutual affection was all that mattered, disability notwithstanding. Yet, Patricia persisted, pushing the idea that Kevin should reconsider his relationship with Amy, who, according to her, was still a suitable match for him. Patricia's insistence on comparing me with Amy, alongside her efforts to orchestrate meetings between Kevin and Amy, strained our relationship to its limits. This tension and Patricia's continual disparagement ultimately led us to relocate to another city, seeking distance and a fresh start away from the negativity. Patricia blamed me for this decision, unable to see how her actions drove us away. However, it was Kevin who was adamant about relocating. He was exhausted by the constant interference from his mother and Amy. Despite his efforts to establish clear boundaries, Patricia's intrusive behavior persisted. Relocating seemed to be our only escape. Following the move, Patricia's meddling in our lives decreased significantly, allowing us a brief period of happiness. But about 7 months later, Patricia appeared unannounced at our doorstep, claiming she had been evicted and had nowhere else to go. Kevin was visibly distressed by her sudden arrival, but after discussing it, we decided to let her stay, hoping it might mend their strained relationship. Unfortunately, Patricia had different intentions. Fast forward another 7 months, and Amy surfaced in our city. Patricia wasted no time informing Kevin, painting Amy as a victim escaping an abusive relationship, suggesting Kevin reconnect with her for old time's sake. Kevin was torn. His past discomfort with Amy made him reluctant, but Patricia's appeal to his empathy weighed heavily on him. Despite his reservations, and with my reluctant approval, Kevin reached out to Amy, hoping to offer support as a friend. However, it wasn't long before Amy began pushing for more, with Patricia endorsing the idea, shocking us both with their blatant disregard for our marriage. Kevin shared his concerns with me, suspecting a manipulative scheme behind their actions. His suspicions were confirmed when we discovered, through a friend of Amy's, that Amy had fabricated her circumstances to get closer to Kevin, following Patricia's guidance. This revelation was infuriating, revealing a level of deceit we hadn't anticipated. Kevin struggled to accept his mother's involvement in such a scheme. Determined to address this head-on, we decided to confront Patricia. Amy's deceit rendered her irrelevant to us, but Patricia's betrayal was deeply personal. She had taken advantage of our hospitality and generosity, all while orchestrating a plot to undermine our relationship. The audacity of their plan was astonishing, and we knew we had to take a stand against such manipulation. Dealing with the betrayal and breach of trust from Patricia was a difficult pill to swallow. With heavy hearts, we decided it was time to address the issue head-on. We gathered our courage and sat Patricia down for a crucial conversation. Kevin initiated the discussion, expressing his discomfort with Patricia's encouragement of an affair with Amy, highlighting how disrespectful it was to both me and our marriage. Patricia's response was dismissive, suggesting that Kevin was being overly sensitive and insisting that Amy was a better match for him than I could ever be. This blatant disregard for our marriage and her son's feelings was shocking. I chimed in, questioning Patricia's inability to respect our union, only to be met with a harsh retort about my presence being an annoyance to her. Kevin firmly defended me, making it clear that Patricia's behavior and comments were unacceptable. When confronted with the lie about Amy's supposed abusive ex-boyfriend, Patricia momentarily loses her composure, revealing her deceit. Yet, she quickly reverted to a defensive stance, justifying her actions by claiming a misguided belief that Kevin belonged with Amy. Patricia's admission of preferring Amy over me, her lack of regret for her actions, and her cruel words were deeply hurtful. She openly stated her wish for Kevin to leave me for Amy, valuing her misguided preference over our happiness. This revelation was shocking, displaying a clear disregard for our feelings and the sanctity of our marriage. The conversation reached a breaking point when Patricia suggested that Kevin was finally seeing things her way, hinting at an impending divorce and Amy taking my place. This unfounded and hurtful claim was more than I could bear. Patricia's relentless pursuit of this fantasy, despite the harm it caused, showed a profound lack of empathy and understanding for the real emotional toll her actions had taken on us. Patricia's indifference had already left me seething, but her latest comments were the final straw. Kevin was visibly shaken, likely never imagining his mother would go as far as to suggest an affair so casually. The sheer depth of her disdain for me and the situation at hand clearly took him by surprise. In response to Patricia's provocations, I found myself propelled by a mix of anger and resolve. I faced her squarely, challenging her preference for Amy over me and her belief that Amy would make a better daughter-in-law. Patricia's unwavering assertion that Amy was superior in every way only fueled my determination. With a calm yet firm tone, born out of sheer frustration, I informed Patricia that her time in our house was over. She could either choose to live with Amy, whom she so adored, or find another place, but she could not stay with us any longer. I suggested she make arrangements to move out within the next few weeks. Patricia seemed taken aback by my assertiveness, likely not expecting such a decisive response. She tried to regain her composure, insisting that she wouldn't leave, claiming the house as her home, and even suggesting that I should be the one to leave, anticipating a divorce between Kevin and me. I countered her claims with equal firmness, reiterating that she would be the one to leave. I made it clear that the house was not hers to claim and dismissed her delusional expectations of staying. Patricia's assertion that she had a right to live in the house because she was Kevin's mother was met with laughter from me. Her assumption that Kevin would side with her and Amy, and that I was somehow the outsider in my own home, was absurd. Patricia's confusion at my reaction, coupled with Kevin's growing anger towards her, underscored the absurdity of the situation. She had indeed brought out the big guns, but her arguments were based on faulty assumptions and wishful thinking rather than the reality of our shared life and home. As Patricia continued to insist on her son's ownership of the house and her place in it, I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of her claims. Her belief in a scenario where she, Kevin, and Amy would live happily ever after in our home, excluding me, was not just delusional, but also a gross underestimation of the strength and resilience of our marriage. Patricia was convinced that Kevin would eventually leave me for Amy, imagining a future where they were together. Mom, where are you getting these ideas? Do you honestly believe I'd betray the woman I love? Kevin's frustration was palpable as he confronted his mother's unfounded beliefs. Patricia tried to justify her actions by claiming she gave Amy Kevin's number because Amy was supposedly distraught over losing him. She argued that Kevin shouldn't settle for me when he could be with Amy, whom she believed he truly loved. Kevin stood his ground firmly, reiterating his dedication to me. Mom, I'm going to say this one last time. I'm not leaving Kimberly. She's my everything, and Amy is in the past. I've made this clear to everyone involved. Patricia seemed taken aback by Kevin's fierce loyalty and defense of our marriage, clearly not expecting such a strong rebuke from her son. In response to Patricia's obstinate fantasy, I let her know in no uncertain terms that her manipulation and interference were unwelcome. When I told Patricia it was time for her to find a new place to live, she was in disbelief, insisting Kevin was just upset and would eventually come around to her way of thinking. Patricia's refusal to accept the reality that Kevin and I were united against her scheme was staggering. She even went so far as to claim that the house was Kevin's and that he could decide who stayed and who left. That's when I revealed a piece of crucial information that left her speechless. The house was actually mine, purchased with my inheritance. This revelation shattered her assumptions about my role and capabilities within our family. Despite my previous attempts to maintain a cordial relationship with Patricia, it became clear that her presence in our home was nothing short of toxic. Her relentless attempts to sabotage my marriage under the guise of caring for Kevin were egregious. The fact that she had been living comfortably off us while plotting to break us apart only added insult to injury. Yet, even faced with the truth about the house and Kevin's unwavering commitment to our marriage, Patricia's delusions remained firmly intact. Her refusal to accept the reality of the situation was a stark reminder of her willingness to go to great lengths to see her own desires fulfilled, regardless of the harm it caused. When Patricia accused me of lying about the ownership of the house, Kevin stepped in to confirm the truth. The house was indeed mine, bought with my inheritance. This revelation seemed to shock Patricia into silence, especially as Kevin made it clear he supported my decision. Despite this, Patricia clung to the hope that Kevin would intervene on her behalf, believing he wouldn't allow his mother to be evicted. "Mom, Kimberly is the owner of the house, and we will respect her decisions," Kevin stated firmly. Patricia's assumption that marital ties made it equally Kevin's house, and thus he would shield her from any consequences, quickly crumbled under the weight of reality. Kevin's resolve was clear. "Even if this was my house, Mom, your actions have gone too far. You've tried to sabotage my marriage. Why would I let that slide?" Patricia's realization that her son was serious about enforcing my decision to have her move out sent her into a state of panic. In a last-ditch effort to garner sympathy, Patricia began to cry, attempting to portray herself as a misguided victim who only wanted the best for Kevin. However, both Kevin and I were unmoved by her tears, seeing them for the manipulative tactic they were. "Mom, you intended to break up my marriage. That's unforgivable," Kevin declared. He reminded her of the generosity we had shown by providing for her, only for her to repay us with deceit and manipulation. It was clear that her stay in our home was over, and any future relationship would need serious reconsideration. Kevin's stance was unwavering, marking a definitive end to Patricia's influence in our household. He understood the importance of standing by me, emphasizing that her betrayal was not something we could overlook. Patricia was to leave our home and give us the space we needed to heal and decide if any form of relationship could be salvaged in the future. This was a pivotal moment for us, one where Kevin proved his dedication to our marriage, and to set boundaries with his mother. Patricia's eviction wasn't just about reclaiming our space. It was a necessary step in protecting the sanctity of our relationship and ensuring our home remained a place of love and trust. Patricia's situation had spiraled beyond her control. What she envisioned as a future with Kevin and Amy together had crumbled, leaving her facing eviction and a severed relationship with her son. In desperation, she pleaded with us, arguing that her actions were a minor error and promising to speak with Amy about backing off. Despite her pleas, our decision was firm. The damage was done, and her betrayal was too great to overlook. We requested a move-out date within the month, emphasizing the finality of our decision. Patricia attempted to appeal to the familial bond, claiming she was ready to mend our relationship and that we could overcome this hurdle together. However, my patience had worn thin, and her reluctance to provide a specific moving date led me to pursue an eviction notice, a step I hoped would underscore the seriousness of the situation. Patricia, shocked by my resolve, turned to Kevin, hoping for his support. But Kevin stood by me, even offering to help pack her bags, signaling a united front against her manipulations. Patricia's attempts to negotiate fell on deaf ears as we distanced ourselves, seeking solace and privacy to discuss the toll her actions and Amy's involvement had taken on us. Kevin expressed regret for not recognizing the extent of the manipulation sooner, and together, we decided to seek couples counseling to repair the emotional damage inflicted during Patricia's stay. The following day, Patricia persisted in her attempts to elicit forgiveness, oscillating between feigned remorse and anger when her efforts were rebuffed. Her antics only strengthened my resolve to see her removed from our home. Accompanied by Kevin, I visited a lawyer to initiate the eviction process. Upon our return and informing Patricia of the official notice, she reacted with disbelief, perhaps hoping her outburst would make us reconsider. But her strategy was ineffective. Her continued attempts to sway us eventually ceased as the reality of her situation settled in. As Patricia packed her bags, her frustration boiled over into a tirade, predicting we'd rue the day we decided to push her out. She even suggested Kevin would be better off leaving me for Amy, prompting Kevin to shut the door on her outburst. But Patricia's anger was short-lived. By evening, she found herself without shelter, as Amy had decided against offering her refuge. This came after Kevin sent Amy a clear message to stay away from us, culminating in him blocking her contact. Finding herself unwelcome at Amy's and desperate for somewhere to stay, Patricia returned to our doorstep, bags in tow, pleading for entry. The answer, however, remained a steadfast no. Her situation had grown dire enough to force her onto an emergency flight to her sister's place in another state. Kevin and I proceeded with our therapy sessions, uncovering and addressing many underlying issues. Thankfully, we've seen significant improvement in our relationship. The absence of Patricia's disruptive presence has been notably beneficial, reinforcing Kevin's decision to cut ties permanently. We informed his aunt of this decision, understanding she was now Patricia's host. While Patricia reacted with expected outrage, her sister showed understanding towards our stance and assured us she'd help maintain our desired distance from Patricia. The peace that has since enveloped our lives is palpable, underscoring the toxicity we've managed to eliminate. This experience has taught us the value of setting boundaries and the importance of removing negative influences from our lives. If I could offer a piece of advice, it would be this. If you find yourself dealing with a toxic individual, especially one as close as a family member, taking steps to protect your peace and happiness is crucial, just as we did with Patricia.